Okay, we're winding down to the tail end of this first turn, and I know it seems interminable, but it actually probably plays a lot quicker. Of course, I take lots and lots of breaks, and when I'm given these little pause markers, well, I go off and do something on each one, basically. It's almost the equivalent of going off after playing one round of cards in, I don't know, a Here I Stand type game, which I do as well, but sometimes I'll play an entire handful in fairly brief succession, and I feel like that's what you should be doing here, or what I should be doing. It's just tough when it's, when I'm filling a lot of it, and I'm also playing a good deal, able to take these breaks. So we started off with the Arameans, and you can see they gathered up a pretty heavy force. They managed an attack. They also threw this vacillating force, which is going to pin that Tyrian force in place, so that it can't move or attack or do anything, really. Tyre has the Bedouins still under play, and they have other forces that they can attack with. The Bedouins aren't terribly effective. I threw an extra chariot down to protect Rabathaman, because things look so good for the Arameans. I couldn't just charge in after them, though. Doing that would pull 12 Bedouin counters out and put them in a state of limited war with Ammon. So it's just not a situation that, I could diffuse easily. I've got to kind of suffer those raiders. And because the Bedouin territory, and the Egyptian territory for that matter, is largely valueless, well, the Bedouin is entirely... Oh no, some of this down here is worth something. So it's almost worthless to attack. Conquering that whole thing would just be too painful. Alright, anyway, let's move on with Tyre. And we wind up the action phase. Yeah, I get to remove this to show you that we actually did. With Moab really kind of dissolving that Edomite army and positioning themselves so that they're kind of in a nice place. They don't have a lot of troops left, and Edom does actually have a reasonable force, but I don't know. It's still going to be a struggle. They've got a fort they can take. They can perhaps take this without loss if they can get more units there. Right now they have 2 chariots. David ended up taking Jaffa, and the remains of the Philistine army drove the Judah army away with a little battle there, and that's about it. That puts us up to a resource phase, just calculation, adding points. Some people might have some bonus chips available still. We'll see. And that's the end of the resource phase. When we look at the points, well, the first thing is Aramea's broken 100 in resources. They are very, very wealthy at this point. Other people not doing so well. Judah and Tyre are okay, but the poor Philistines only got 20-something. They're losing points for the coastal areas they've lost. They didn't gain that much here, and really it's kind of getting scary for them with no troops and without the leadership advantage Judah has, and with less productive capability. If production comes up, they're just not going to have the ability to build troops the way Judah will be able to. Both sides have ports now, so both sides can build at a cheaper rate. Ooh. I hope I remembered that. I'm not sure I remembered to do that for people other than Moab who were making trades. I know that Moab had to pay the 3-to-1 cost, but I'm not sure. Obviously, the Philistines and Tyre would not have had to. They would have only had to pay 2-to-1. I hope I didn't screw up, but oh well if I did. All right, so what happens now? We're at the end of the turn, basically, right? Well, we see if somebody's won. I don't think that's possible, but let's look at those victory conditions, because this is the end of the tape for the first turn. And what are we looking at? Well, who's ahead? That's kind of the big question. Who's ahead? Judah's ahead. They need 10 extra cities. They've got 1. Wow, 10 isn't a lot. 2, 3, 4. They need 6 more. that is pretty much knocking the Philistines out. Everybody better be on alert at this point, because the Philistines aren't far from being knocked out. If Judah can knock them out, that is the game. That's too simple, isn't it? Feels it. It really does. It does not feel like, the 40 years of David's reign. It feels like that 10 victory points was probably covered within the first few when he knocks out the Philistines, although he doesn't completely knock them out early on. But still, as this is playing out, it certainly looks fairly easy. Let's look at some others. Aramea, are they ahead or behind? I think they're ahead. They have a city here. That's +1. +2. That's not much. But they need 8. How many does Tyre have? Tyre only has 3. So they need to do more than some of the others. Of course, they're off in the corner, so that's kind of cool. Let me make sure that I'm reading this right. Until one player has met the automatic... When counting cities, count each city that has a control marker on it. Subtract the total from that total. Yeah, you get to count cities that you've captured that are, just out in the wilderness, which I thought. Okay, how about Moab? Well, they haven't gained much at all. They've only gained 1. They need a total of 6, 5 more. There's only 3 in Edom. But if they get that, and that looks iffy, they might be in fairly strong position. They're kind of tied down to Edom. At this point, the real question comes, can things like Aramea and Tyre come to some sort of agreement? That, hey, Judah is the problem. Could Moab be pulled in somehow? I don't know. I really don't know. Likewise, the Philistines are negative at this point, I think. They've gained 1, 2 cities, 3 cities. No, they're at even. And they've lost 3. And Tyre is down 1. And they need 7 to win. Anyway, there's the end of that first turn. We're going to move to the second turn. And we have some, kind of stuff to do, setting up the action track, rolling the initiative, doing some diplomacy. See if the cards fall a little differently in terms of how the players feel about one another, because at this point the Philistines can definitely be pointing out and saying, hey, Judah's not far from winning. I don't think I can hold out against them. I really don't. What's going to happen? At the very least, Aramea could actually divert some of their reinforcements in that direction. But I don't think anyone else can. Moab definitely needs to get a better handle on Edom. They're having real struggles with them. All right, up this goes.